Welcome to Reformed Thinking.
Hey there.
So, imagine finding out that the person who is, currently ruining your reputation,
Okay.
like maybe the boss who fired you or that coworker lying about you.
Or just a neighbor making your life totally miserable.
Yeah, imagine finding out that they are actually wielding a tool that was carefully weighed and handed to them by God.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is a heavy thought.
It really is. And look, if you are listening to this right now, chances are you are dealing with some kind of hardship yourself.
Most of us are.
Right. Maybe it is stress that keeps you awake at night, or opposition from people you thought were your friends.
Or maybe just a season of life where it feels like you are walking face first into a freezing headwind.
Yes, that feeling. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today's material speaks straight to the core of that specific experience.
It does.
We are looking at a single, fascinating source for our conversation today.
Right. A really incredible piece of history.
Yeah, it is a published sermon from 1911 by Charles Haddon Spurgeon.
A classic.
It is titled Woe and Weal,
Yeah.
and he preached it based on just a single verse from the Old Testament, Micah chapter 7, verse 9.
It is a staggering piece of historical preaching, honestly.
It really is.
Spurgeon just had this incredible ability to take what looks like a simple historical passage, and he cracks it open. So you see the absolute sovereignty of God operating right in the middle of our most agonizing personal pain.
And that is our mission for this entire deep dive today. We want to unpack Spurgeon's stunningly countercultural view on suffering.
And on being slandered by others, which we all hate.
Oh, absolutely. And we also want to look at the whole concept of divine discipline.
Right, which is a tough one to swallow at first.
It is. I mean, the specific insight we are trying to extract here is the idea that true comfort comes not from avoiding pain
Right.
or from, successfully defending your own reputation.
Which is our first instinct.
Always. But comfort actually comes from recognizing who is holding the rod that is striking your back.
Yeah. And to really get our bearings on that, we have to look at the historical and scriptural context of Micah.
Lay it out for us.
So the prophet Micah was writing during a time of massive national and spiritual decay.
Right, in the nations of Israel and Judah.
Yeah, and you read the surrounding chapters, and he is just looking around at a society that has completely lost its moral compass.
Like leaders taking bribes.
Bribes, families betraying one another. It is bad. And he is feeling the crush of that reality on multiple levels.
It is an incredibly dark, cynical time to be alive.
Very dark. And in this specific verse, Micah outlines a progression of how a believer processes that kind of dark season.
And Spurgeon masterfully breaks the text down into three specific areas of analysis.
Right. He looks at what the prophet felt, what he believed, and then what he expected to happen next.
So let's jump into that first area right away, what the prophet felt.
Let's do it.
Because right out of the gate, Spurgeon lays down a baseline argument that kind of obliterates the way most modern people think about the Christian life. He says the path to heaven is entirely obstructed. It is not a smooth, paved highway.
Not at all.
He quotes the poet William Cowper saying, the path of sorrow, and that path alone, leads to the land where sorrow is unknown.
We do not like that. We really want the path of least resistance.
I know I do. We want the comfortable air-conditioned route.
Oh, sure. But Micah was dealing with specific, layered, agonizing griefs that Spurgeon points out.
What were those specific griefs?
First, Micah grieved the lowest state of the church, the spiritual community around him.
Right, seeing the worship of God neglected.
Yeah, he felt that ache.
Wow.
Second, he was living among a generation that he described in very graphic terms.
Very sharp terms.
Literally. He said they were sharper than a thorn hedge. He felt like he was dwelling in the metaphorical tents of Kedar and Meshach.
Let's stop there for a second and paint that picture for the listener.
Sure.
Living in a thorn hedge. What does that actually feel like on a daily basis?
Well, think about walking through a dense thicket of briars. You literally cannot move without getting snagged, scratched, and bleeding.
Ouch.
Yeah, and that was Micah's social environment. Every single interaction was a trap.
Every conversation had an ulterior motive.
Spot on. He was surrounded by hostile, sharp, painful people who were constantly looking for a way to tear him down.
And that leads to the third grief, right? The personal stuff.
Yes, he was carrying the incredibly heavy burden of personal slander. People were just making things up about him.
And Spurgeon uses some incredibly striking images to describe that slander.
He really does.
He points out that birds will pluck at the ripe fruits, and the longest trees cast the longest shadows.
Wow.
When I read that part, it literally stopped me in my tracks.
Those images shift the entire perspective on what it means to be attacked, don't they?
Completely. I mean, the birds do not bother landing on the sour, unripe fruit.
No, they ignore it.
They go for the sweet, mature, ripe fruit.
And the tallest trees, the ones standing the most upright, naturally cast the longest shadows across the ground.
Right, so Spurgeon is pointing out that being targeted by slander or opposition is not necessarily a sign that you are doing something wrong.
Quite the opposite, actually.
It is often a direct byproduct of spiritual fruitfulness and living an upright life.
Yes, it is the price of standing tall.
But I hear that, and I still have to ask a challenging question on behalf of the listener here.
Go for it.
If we accept that God himself was slandered in paradise by the serpent.
Right there in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, in a perfect environment, why are we always so shocked and so outraged when people lie about us?
That is a great point.
We act like some unprecedented cosmic injustice has occurred to us.
When it is really par for the course.
Exactly. I mean, the creator of the universe faced the same thing from the very beginning.
We suffer from a severe case of historical amnesia.
We really do.
We just forget the pattern established from the very first pages of Scripture. We think we deserve better treatment than the Lord of Glory received.
Yeah, which is pretty arrogant when you think about it.
It is. And Spurgeon addresses this reaction by tackling the whole concept of stoicism.
Oh, this is a huge topic today.
In our modern context, there is a massive industry built around stoicism. You see it on every social media feed.
Yeah, the whole Sigma male or hustle culture mindset.
Right, it tells you to build an iron mindset to steel yourself against criticism.
Just be a machine. Do not let them see you bleed.
Yeah, to become an unfeeling rock in the face of adversity. Let the insults just bounce off you.
But Spurgeon pushes back on that hard.
Oh, he argues that playing the Stoic is the absolute opposite of Christianity. It is a pagan philosophy.
Wow, pagan.
Yes. God intends for his people to feel the pain. He wants the sting to actually register.
Because if you do not feel it, it is not a trial.
Spot on. When Jesus stood at Lazarus' grave, he did not stand there unaffected with some iron mindset.
Jesus wept.
He wept. He felt the agonizing sorrow of death and loss.
And Spurgeon points out that it is through he uses the word blueness, the blueness of the wound, that the hurt gets better.
Right, the actual bruising.
Yeah, the visible discoloration, the stinging of the affliction. If the flail does not fall heavily on the wheat, it cannot separate the chaff from the pure grain.
We all love to think we are tough,
Oh, totally. We want to be bulletproof.
The world tells you that sensitivity is a weakness. But Spurgeon insists that sensitivity under God's hand is actually a virtue.
Right. He says we are not supposed to ask for nerves of steel and sinews of iron.
Because if your heart is turned to stone, how can it be shaped?
Man, that is good. The pain is the mechanism of the shaping.
Exactly. To reject the pain, to try and suppress it through sheer willpower or, like, psychological detachment.
Right.
That is just rejecting the very tool God is using for your growth. Becoming callous means you are no longer moldable.
If you refuse to feel the sorrow of the slander or the sting of the opposition, you are essentially telling the potter that you refuse to let his hands mold the clay.
You are fighting the process.
But wait, if I accept that this pain is necessary, my first instinct as a human isn't, calm acceptance.
No, definitely not.
My instinct is to find whoever caused the pain and make them pay.
Oh, of course. Vengeance.
If someone lies about me, I want to ruin them. How does Spurgeon expect us to just turn that off?
Well, that brings us to one of the most arresting analogies in the entire text.
Yes, this is brilliant.
It is all about who is actually wielding the weapon. Spurgeon uses the analogy of the dog and the stick.
Break that down.
So imagine a man beating a dog with a stick.
Okay.
The dog immediately turns around and bites the stick. It focuses all of its rage, all of its teeth on the immediate object causing the pain.
Which makes sense for an animal.
Right. Spurgeon notes that if the dog had reason, if it had higher cognitive function, it would not bother with the stick at all.
It would try to bite the person holding it.
Yes, but humans act just like the dog. We get intensely angry at the second cause.
We obsess over the second causes, the person slandering us.
The specific circumstance.
The boss who fired us, the economic downturn.
We bite the stick, rather than looking up past the instrument to the unseen hand of providence wielding it.
I was actually thinking about a modern equivalent to this because it happens all the time with technology.
Oh, what's that?
It is like getting furious at an automated email rather than the system that generated it.
Oh, yes.
You get a notification that your flight is canceled or your account is overdrawn, and you start yelling at your phone screen.
Swearing at the phone.
Yeah, you are furious at the glowing pixels, but the screen is just the delivery mechanism. It has no will of its own.
That is a great comparison.
So how does viewing our fiercest enemies as as just sticks in God's hand actually alter our reaction to them?
It radically shifts the entire paradigm of human conflict.
How so?
Spurgeon offers a sharp critique of the worldly philosophy that attributes startling events like plagues, cholera outbreaks, severe weather, or sudden financial ruin solely to natural causes.
Right. Chalking it all up to chance.
When society does that, we push God further away from our daily reality. We make him an absentee landlord.
But if we recognize the absolute sovereignty of God over every single molecule and every single human action,
then we have to see our enemies as tools in his hand.
wow.
When you realize that the person slandering you is just a stick being used to accomplish a divine purpose in your life, your burning anger toward them starts to dissipate.
Because your attention turns toward the Creator.
Spot on. You stop asking, how dare this creature do this to me? And you start asking, what is my Creator doing in me through this?
That is a terrifying amount of sovereignty to swallow, honestly.
It is huge.
But it also provides this immense, albeit incredibly difficult, comfort to know that things are not just spinning out of control.
Right. It's not random chaos.
Spurgeon says God measures out the briars by weight and quality. I love that phrasing so much.
The precision of it.
Yes. He fills the bitter cup, but he says it is actually a love potion meant to do us permanent good. The precision of that is staggering to me.
It really is.
The exact weight of your specific trial, the exact duration of the slander, the specific person who betrayed you, it was all calculated.
And that calculation leads directly into the purpose of the trial. If God is purposefully striking us, if he's measuring the briars, what is the actual goal?
Right, why do it?
Spurgeon explains that affliction accomplishes what peace cannot. It excavates our hidden nature. Affliction does the digging.
Oh, the digging analogy.
Yeah, he introduces the concept that sickness, slander, and severe hardship do more for our internal heart work than 100 sermons ever could.
He uses this vivid imagery of the spade of tribulation, turning over the green sods of our profession to reveal the creeping, loathsome things underneath.
Think about a well-kept lawn in a wealthy neighborhood.
Okay, picture that.
It looks pristine on the surface. The grass is green, perfectly manicured, utterly respectable.
Beautiful.
But if you take a sharp metal spade and dig up a huge chunk of that sod, what do you actually see?
You see the dirt, the grubs, the worms.
The tangled roots, the decaying matter. It is ugly under there. Affliction is that spade.
We all love to think we are spiritually healthy when everything is going our way.
Of course.
The green sods look fantastic until hardship digs them up. Like, you think you are a deeply patient person until you are stuck in gridlock traffic when you are already 20 minutes late for a career-defining meeting.
Oh, right.
Then you realize you are full of rage.
Very quickly.
Or you think you are a generous, open-handed person until your own bank account gets tight and suddenly you are hoarding every single penny.
Yeah, the hardship does not create the impatience or the greed.
No.
The traffic did not manufacture your rage. It just took a spade and dug up the creeping things that were already crawling beneath your polite religious exterior.
That realization is incredibly painful.
It is brutal. When the spade turns over the sod, our initial reaction is usually denial.
We do not want to admit that those creeping things belong to us.
No, we want to blame the spade. We want to say, the only reason I acted that way, the only reason I snapped at my spouse, the only reason I lied is because the trial was so unfair and the pressure was so high.
But the pressure just exposed the reality of the plumbing. And this brings us to a quote Spurgeon uses from the Scottish theologian Samuel Rutherford.
Oh, this is a great quote.
Of all the wine in God's cellar, birch wine may be the bitterest, but it is the best. Let's break that down, because most people listening today have no idea what birch wine is.
Yeah, we need to explain that.
Yeah.
So birch wine was historically made from the sap of the birch tree.
Okay.
But it is crucial to note that the birch tree was also the primary source of the birch rod,
Ah, the
which
rod.
was the standard instrument used for physical discipline and chastisement in schools and homes back then.
So Rutherford is playing on that association.
Spot on. The discipline is bitter to taste. It goes down rough.
Yeah.
But the vintage it produces in the human soul, the humility, the reliance on Christ, the destruction of pride, it is unmatched by any sweet wine of prosperity.
Spurgeon also throws in this analogy about Arctic voyagers that fits perfectly here.
Well, I love the Arctic Voyagers one.
He points out that the stars shine with the most brilliant sparkle in the freezing, dark winter at the northern pole.
Right.
The sparkle of divine grace is best seen against the dark backdrop of our own discovered sin.
Yes, you do not see the stars at noon when the sun is shining and life is easy.
You need the freezing dark to see the constellations.
And the freezing dark is where the theological rubber really meets the road. It forces a complete reassessment of who we are.
Okay, I have to stop you there because I can hear the listener screaming a massive theological objection right now.
I bet. Bring it on.
If we are talking about God striking us and using a birch rod and digging up our sin to discipline us, well, wait a minute.
What's the issue?
I thought the whole point of the gospel is that Christ paid all our debts to divine justice on the cross.
He did.
If the ledger is completely cleared, if the blood of Jesus covers all my sin, why on earth is God punishing me for my sin? Isn't that double jeopardy?
That is the crucial distinction Spurgeon parses very, very carefully.
It is the linchpin of historic Protestant theology regarding sanctification, isn't it?
It is. God does not punish believers as a judge inflicting vindictive wrath. Christ, the substitute, bore that full wrath on the cross. He paid the debt to the utmost farthing. The courtroom scene is finished.
The gavel has fallen.
The gavel has fallen.
Yeah.
And the verdict is definitively not guilty. There is no condemnation left.
Amen to that.
However, God operates under a second, entirely different government for the believer.
And what is that?
Parental care.
The difference between a judge and a father? This is huge.
It changes everything.
Unpack how Spurgeon illustrates this, because the visual is great.
He uses a brilliant everyday analogy. Imagine a father walking down the street in his town, and he sees a group of boys throwing rocks through the windows of a shop.
Total vandalism.
Right. The father might look at the stranger's kids and just ignore them, leaving them to the local authorities or to the eventual consequences of the law.
He just walks by.
He winks at their behavior for the moment. But if he looks closely at the group and sees his own son throwing a rock, everything changes.
Oh, yeah. He's not walking by that.
He will not wait for the police. He will march over, grab his son by the collar, and severely discipline him right there on the spot.
So applied spiritually.
God winks at the sins of many sinners in this current age. He lets them build their wealth, enjoy their lives, and leaves them for the final judgment. But he will absolutely not wink at his own children's transgressions.
So let me ask you this. If someone's business prospers while they act completely unethically, is that a sign of God's blessing?
That is the big question.
Because we see that all the time in the real world. People cutting corners, lying to their clients, treating their employees like garbage.
And their stock portfolios are through the roof.
Yes, they have the boat, the second house, the perfect vacations.
Spurgeon addresses that head on. He says, if a man prospers through sin, it proves he is not a child of God.
Wow, it proves it.
It is a terrifying position to be in. For a Christian, a little thing is treason. God expects great things where he gives great things.
The discipline itself is the proof of the adoption.
Exactly. If you can sin without consequence in this life, if your conscience never bothers you and your life just keeps getting easier.
You are the stranger's child breaking the window.
Right. The father does not care enough about the stranger's child to discipline him in the street.
That reframes everything. It makes me think of Job's desperate cry in the Old Testament.
What did Job say?
Show me wherefore thou contendest with me. Show me why you are fighting against me.
It is a very hard truth that at the roots of our grief, we generally find our own guilt.
And we despise drawing that line. We prefer to think our suffering is purely random.
Or even better, we like to think it is a spiritual attack from the enemy because we are just so incredibly holy and effective for the kingdom.
Right, we flatter ourselves. But Spurgeon asks us to look inward first, to ask the Father, what are you correcting in me?
And once we recognize that the trial is a targeted parental discipline meant to refine us, our reaction has to change.
We have to pivot.
We pivot from asking, why is this happening to me, to asking, how should I conduct myself while I'm under the rod?
And this brings us to the Old Testament figure of Aaron.
Yes, Aaron's story is so intense here.
After a devastating judgment fell on Aaron's two sons, they were killed by fire from the Lord for offering unauthorized fire. Aaron's response is documented in a few chilling words.
He held his peace.
He was completely silent, his sons are dead, and he says nothing.
He held his peace because he recognized the absolute justice and sovereignty of the hand that struck the blow.
Wow.
Holding an argument with God is an exercise in utter futility.
It's pointless.
Spurgeon compares it to a parent dealing with a stubborn child. As long as the child brazens it out, crosses their arms, stomps their feet, and argues that they are right, the rod remains.
Because if the parent gives in, the lesson is lost.
The parent cannot yield to the child's stubbornness without fundamentally ruining the child's character. Relief only comes when the child yields and submits.
I think about fighting God's discipline like struggling in quicksand.
Oh, that is a good visual.
The more you fight the second causes, the more you argue with the outcome, the more you try to claw your way out through sheer force of will, the deeper you sink into anxiety and bitterness.
You exhaust yourself fighting the stick.
Yes. The relief only comes when you stop thrashing. Spurgeon talks about letting the lancet into the gathering.
A gathering is an old medical term, right?
Right. It means an infected boil or an abscess. You have to let the surgeon's knife cut into it to drain the infection.
You have to stop fighting the surgeon.
You have to pray, "Strike, Lord, if thou wilt."
The psychology of that submission is vital. And Spurgeon does not leave the believer alone in that agonizing moment.
No, he outlines a massive support system.
He introduces the believers to advocates in heaven who are actively engaged while you are suffering.
Who is the first?
First, there is the Father himself. Spurgeon quotes the psalm like, "As a father pitieth his children," to show that God feels the pain of disciplining the child.
That is so comforting.
The father's heart yearns for the child, feeling the grief, even while his steady hand applies the rod.
That is a staggering concept. The hand that strikes is connected to a heart that pities.
And the second advocate is the Lord Jesus.
What does he do?
Spurgeon points out that Jesus takes you through no darker rooms than he went through before.
Wow.
You have the Father who pities your weakness, and the Son who sympathizes with your exact pain because he lived it.
He faced the slander.
He faced the betrayal. He faced the physical agony.
All right, so if we have these incredible advocates handling our case in heaven, what do we do about our earthly reputation right now?
That is the burning question.
Because let's be honest, that is the immediate issue for most people listening.
Oh, yeah.
If someone is dragging my name through the mud on social media or whispering about me in the office, my first instinct is to draft a massive defense.
You want to post the receipts.
I want to expose their lies and absolutely destroy their arguments. I want to go to war for my own name.
Well, Spurgeon gives advice on self-defense that feels completely alien to our modern sensibilities.
What is his rule?
His rule is simple. Let God fight the battle. Put down the sword.
Just drop it.
Just drop it. He recounts the Old Testament story of David and Nabal to illustrate this.
I love this story. So David had protected Nabal's shepherds, right?
Yes. And when David asked for some provisions, Nabal rudely insulted him.
And David was absolutely furious.
He was seeing red. He strapped on his sword, gathered his men, and marched out in a burning rage to slaughter Nabal and every male in his entire household.
David was fully prepared to execute his own judgment. He was not waiting around for God.
He was going to handle his own PR and exact his own vengeance.
But then Nabal's wife, Abigail, intercepted him.
She brought food, fell at his feet, and convinced him to let the Lord handle the situation.
And David actually listened to her.
He did. He stopped, he put up his sword, and he went back.
And what happened?
The text says that 10 days later, the Lord smote Nabal, and he died.
David did not have to lift a single finger.
More crucially, by putting down his sword, David was saved from the immense guilt of shedding blood in anger and ruining his own conscience.
Spurgeon also shares this brilliant historical anecdote about a Mr. Whitelock and his servant John that drives this point home.
I love that one.
Whitelock was a diplomat deeply involved in the complex, volatile politics of England.
And he was stressed out.
Intensely anxious about the state of the nation, pacing the floors at night, completely unable to sleep because he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders.
So his servant John sees him pacing.
Right, and John asks him a simple question. "Sir, did England get on pretty well before you were born?"
Whitelock stops and says, "Well, yes, it did."
Then John asks, "And do you think it will get on all right when you are dead?"
Whitelock says yes, I suppose it will.
And John replies, then do you not think you can trust God to run it while you are alive?
It is a surgically precise critique of human pride.
We really think the universe requires our constant management.
We do.
I really want you, the listener, to pause and consider your own ego right now.
Yeah, just think about it.
Why are we in such a massive hurry to clear our names? Why do we spend hours lying awake drafting imaginary arguments to win fights against people who do not even care about us?
Who will care about this dispute 100 years from now when we are gone?
Nobody. Spurgeon uses a phrase that summarizes the proper posture perfectly. 'Tis mine to obey, 'tis his to provide.
We constantly mix up those roles.
We spend all our energy trying to provide. We try to provide our own defense, provide our own reputation, provide our own financial security, provide our own vindication.
And because we are so exhausted from trying to do God's job of providing, we completely neglect our actual job,
which is simply to obey.
That role reversal is the source of so much of our anxiety.
It really is.
But what happens when we actually do step back? What happens when we put down the sword, stop managing our own reputation, and let God execute judgment?
Well, this moves us to the final phase of Micah's progression, what he expected at the end of the trial.
Micah did not just feel the rod, and he did not just believe in his advocate. He expected a specific, guaranteed outcome.
He expected to be brought forth to the light.
There is a rock-solid certainty in his words. God never casts down without intending to lift up.
The discipline has an expiration date.
Yes. Spurgeon discusses the pure joy of that eventual deliverance. He uses the analogy of a sick person.
How does that go?
Someone who has been bedridden with chronic pain for months relishes a single day without pain in a way a healthy person cannot even comprehend.
Because the healthy person just takes a pain-free body for granted.
Right. But the one who has suffered tastes the sweetness of relief.
Spurgeon argues that the suffering makes the joy almost worth it, just to experience the incredible contrast of the light breaking through the darkness.
So what does this all mean for how we view the end of the trial?
Because there is a massive shift in perspective in the text of Micah right at the end.
A huge shift.
Micah did not say, I shall behold my righteousness.
No, he didn't.
He did not say, when God brings me to the light, I will be proven right to all my haters, and they will finally see how great and misunderstood I am.
He does not care about his own vindication anymore.
He says, I shall behold his righteousness.
That is the crux of the entire matter. The final goal of the trial is not vindication of the self.
If you go through a period of intense suffering and slander, and your only takeaway is, I survived and I proved them wrong,
then you miss the point of the discipline entirely.
The goal is recognizing the righteousness of God in having tried you.
It is discerning his wisdom, his goodness, and his absolute truth in the affliction itself.
The final goal of all our trials is doxology.
It is worship.
It is looking back at the darkest, most painful season of your life, the season where you were slandered and broken, and being able to say, God was entirely right to do that to me.
I needed the spade. I needed the birch rod.
He's righteous. The maturity required to say that takes my breath away.
It completely dismantles the ego. It leaves no room for human boasting at all.
But Spurgeon, being the faithful preacher he is, does not end his sermon on a comfortable note for everyone.
No, he turns his attention away from the disciplined children and addresses those who do not have this heavenly Father at all.
He uses this chilling closing imagery of a brutal winter storm.
He describes believers as being inside a sturdy house by a roaring fire.
The storm is howling outside, the wind is screaming, the temperature is dropping. They are safe, warm, and secure.
They hear the storm, but it cannot destroy them.
The unbeliever, however, is described as the houseless wanderer.
Their boots are soaked through from the freezing slush. They are shivering. They have no home to go to.
And they are standing out in the bitter cold, looking through the frosted windows at the warmth and light inside the house.
It is an intensely striking metaphor for the final judgment.
It really illustrates the absolute terror of having no father, no warmth of divine love, and being shut out while seeing the safety of those inside.
If you do not have God as your Father, then the trials and sufferings in this life are not parental discipline meant to refine you.
They are not a birch rod used in love.
They are just a bleak, meaningless prelude to the eternal storm outside.
And Spurgeon makes an immediate, desperate plea to the listener.
He says, the door is mercy, to knock is prayer, to step across the threshold is faith.
He cries out, fly to Jesus now.
Do not stay out in the freezing storm trying to brave it on your own.
If we pull back and connect all these threads together, The paradigm shift Spurgeon offers is absolute.
When viewed through the lens of God's sovereign care, afflictions are no longer random accidents.
Or bad luck, or vindictive punishments from a cruel universe.
For the believer, they are the precise, loving, calculated discipline of a father.
Because we know the Father holds the stick, we drop our swords.
We stop frantically defending our own names against slander.
And we wait patiently for him to bring us into the light so we can praise his righteousness.
We have covered so much ground today.
From the medical precision we wish we had in diagnosing our pain, to the muddy waters of spiritual discipline,
to the dog biting the stick, the spade turning over our polite religious exterior, and the quicksand of fighting God.
I want to leave you, the listener, with one last thing to consider as you go back to whatever hardship you're facing right now.
Yeah, think about this.
If your greatest desire right now is for a completely smooth, unobstructed life, a life where you never face opposition, where no one ever speaks ill of you, and where you never feel the painful sting of divine discipline.
Are you actually wishing for God to leave you entirely alone?
Are you asking the Father to treat you like the stranger's child in the street?
And if he actually gave you what you wanted, wouldn't that be the most terrifying outcome of all?
It is a question that completely reorients what we consider a good life.
It really does.
Thank you for joining us in the muddy waters today. Keep trusting the hand that holds the rod. We will see you next time.